Rule number 1. Never be number 2. Almost doesn't count. If you ain't first, you're last. Second place is the first loser, etc. Sports is generally not an arena where we celebrate guys who come in second place, guys who almost get something done. Well, today's story is about Chris Mathews, and this dude's second place story is so good that even though he didn't get first, this story still needs to be told in its entirety. I'm sure some of you guys know bits, maybe pieces of this story, but do you know the full thing? Well, if you stick around to the end of this video, you will. So Super Bowl 52 is right around the corner. It's actually 2 days before my son turns 2 and 1 day before your boy turns the big 3-0. But before we look ahead to this game, I want to go back a few years. Super Bowl 49. Remember when Al Michaels said this?
This is a guy working in a Foot Locker store when the Seahawks called him and said, come on and try out.
I remember being like, huh? What were you doing when you heard that? I was sitting in a room of salesmen, my former co-workers. We had all left work early because it was the Super Bowl, and who in their right mind is going to be buying TVs during the Super Bowl? We should have been off anyway, but I digress. I look to the guys in the room and I say, bro, this man's going to win MVP. Like, he was just selling Jordan 11s and now he's doing this. It was time to learn all about his story as he closed in on a possible Super Bowl MVP. But then this happened.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line.
At that point, Chris Mathews faded from memory. Chris Mathews is actually a relative of the late great Reggie White. He's also the son of an ex-football player who became a police officer after giving up the game. Fortunately for Chris, his dad passed on his athletic ability to his kids. Chris's younger sister, Jada, played college basketball at Utah. But along with his athletic prowess, Chris's dad also passed on work ethic, a never say die attitude, and to his son, he passed on a jersey number, 13. So your chances to make it to the NFL, just based on numbers alone, are very, very slim. But your chances of making it to the league at a skill position when you're not even a star player in high school, virtually zero. Yet, when Chris was in high school, he couldn't get much PT at wide receiver. He had to switch to tight end just to get on the field. And let me say this, if you're a true wide receiver, playing tight end kinda sucks. The stance is awkward, and most receivers don't want to block on 75% of the plays.
I tried to hit Ray when he wasn't looking, and I lost bad.
But that's exactly what Chris Mathews had to do. The running back he was blocking for would eventually go to UCLA and then to the league. And UCLA was actually looking at Chris as well, but he did not meet their academic requirements. But it was cool. San Diego State jumped on board, offered a scholarship. Unfortunately for Chris, they pulled it at the last second. I don't know, man, they must have found a gem in the recruiting pool, took all the points off Chris and put him on the reject. So that left Chris to go the JUCO route. He attended a 2-year school called LA Harbor, and due to a lack of high school footage for Chris, those are the highlights we've been watching in the background. Now, during his second year there, Chris blossomed as he caught 80 passes for 1,200 plus yards and 11 touchdowns. In 2009, he moved on to the University of Kentucky, where he played with another future NFL receiver, Randall Cobb. Now, Chris didn't have a great season during his first year with the team, but as a senior, he once again showed how good he could be, catching 61 passes for 925 yards and 9 touchdowns. Chris wasn't invited to the NFL Combine, but the 4.5 40 that he ran at Kentucky's Pro Day wasn't bad at all, especially considering he was 6'5", 218 pounds. But somehow, that plus Chris's production during his senior year just wasn't good enough. Chris sat back and watched the 2011 NFL Draft in disappointment, as 28 wide receivers were drafted, and he wasn't one of them. And although most of those receivers never amounted to much in the NFL, they got an opportunity that Chris just wasn't afforded. That's when he realized he was gonna have to do this the hard way. Now, 2011 was the year of the NFL lockout, but as soon as it ended, the Cleveland Browns gave Chris a call. He later signed with them as a free agent. He was officially an NFL player. He made it all the way to final cuts, but when the Browns shaved the roster down for the final time, Chris got caught in the blade. At this point, he needed to make some money but wasn't giving up on his dream, so he played arena ball for a year, grabbing 36 passes, 472 yards, 9 touchdowns. He had gotten a call from the CFL, but it wasn't super pleasant. The cat that called him seemed to be a little annoyed that he had to make the call and was actually relatively rude on the phone. The guy calls and says, "Yeah, we're looking at you, but if we decide to bring you up here, you gotta be ready to go because you can't run by anybody and get open." Now, it's football, and trust me, I've had much worse screamed in my face by a coach who was unnecessarily angry all the time. I don't know how they managed that. But if you call in to let me know that you're interested, some tact, some class would be appreciated. Anyway, Chris did eventually sign with that CFL team because hell, that was his opportunity, so he had to swallow his pride. He gets to Canada, he's killing, #1 on the depth chart until the first game rolls around. Chris was benched in favor of another player. Now, I like to slow things down when stuff like this keeps happening throughout the story. I just want to kind of tally this up so people can really put themselves in this man's shoes. Can you imagine? At this point, you almost had the scholarship out of high school, didn't work out. Went the JUCO route, earned your way to Kentucky, balled out your senior year, thought you were going to get drafted, you don't. Signed with the Browns, get cut, play arena ball, get a call, get disrespected, come all the way to Canada, do your thing, and then right before the first game, you get benched. But Chris, amazingly, stayed diligent. As fate would have it, the guy who had been placed in front of Chris went down with an injury. And we never ever wish injury on another man, but we recognized the opportunity. And that's exactly what Chris did. He balled out, 81 catches, 1,192 yards, 7 touchdowns. Went on to earn the CFL's Most Outstanding Rookie Award or Rookie of the Year. And at this point, it was clear this dude could ball. He just needed an opportunity. The following year, Chris ran into his own injury issues, and by 2014, he was back in LA. That alone would be enough to derail most men, but then check this out. Chris had fallen all the way down the totem pole. He went from the CFL Rookie of the Year to a security guard at the mall. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a security guard at the mall. Get the bag however you can get it, but imagine waking up every morning and instead of putting on your shoulder pads and cleats, you're putting on that stiff button down that you never can quite get all the wrinkles out of. It's just a tough pill to swallow after you snatch 80 grabs and get 1,200 yards in a professional league. But at this point, Chris was just trying to make it. He was waiting on that call, and one day soon, he got one. But not from the NFL. You see, Chris had put in an application at Foot Locker, but shortly after he donned the black and white stripes, he received another call, this time from the Seahawks. They signed Chris, and just like that, he was back in the league, but still literally fighting daily to stay there. He went back and forth between the practice squad and unemployment for most of the season. He poured all of his energy into special teams, which he had never played in high school or college, by the way. But he became good enough at it that on December 6, 2014, the Seahawks signed him to the active roster. Now check this out. The Seahawks would practice the onside kick with the hands team once a week. Chris was on the hands team, okay? It was never live action. So imagine how Chris must have felt when taking the field in the NFC Championship game, down 5 points, 2 minutes to go in the game. Now Chris's only job was to clear the way for Cam Chancellor. But after the ball was muffed, Chris used his reflexes and his hands to recover the onside kick, making a huge heads-up play that gave Seattle another opportunity. Seattle went on to win that game, and now Chris Mathews, the security guard who had recently gotten hired at Foot Locker, was going to play in the Super Bowl. During the game, Seattle was struggling to move the ball. Chris got in on a pass play but was only a decoy. He said the Seahawks had practiced that play for 2 weeks, and Russell Wilson literally never threw the ball his way once. It was just Chris's job to run off the defender. But if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. And on that day, for some reason, Russell threw it to Chris, and Chris made a play. That one set up a beast mode touchdown. That was the first catch of his career, and it was in the Super Bowl. How crazy is that? but it wasn't over. Later in the game, Pete Carroll turned to Chris and said, "Come here, Chris, I'm gonna throw you a jump ball." Chris gets in, bam, makes the play, touchdown, son. The team gains more trust in Chris. In the second half, he catches another 45-yard grab. That one set up a field goal, and his fourth grab was a 9-yard hitch route that started a 50-yard touchdown drive. Finished the game with 109 huge yards and a TD, and had a legitimate case for Super Bowl MVP. To think how far he'd come. Everything he had been through, the ups, the downs, the constant disappointment, being overlooked, underappreciated, and now Super Bowl MVP. But it wasn't meant to be.
They try to pick play, Al. They tried to go here, but he beats him to the punch. And I'm sorry, but I can't believe the call.
Me neither.
I cannot believe the call. You've got Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. You've got a guy that's been borderline unstoppable in this part of the field. I can't believe the call.
Bro, during that game, Chris Mathews' rookie card soared. It went up 3,500%. But that didn't stop the Seahawks from releasing Chris in 2015. Now, from there, he landed with the Ravens, went on their practice squad, made it onto the active roster, caught his first regular season touchdown, but was once again derailed by injury. Now, Chris is currently 28 years old, and for an undrafted roster bubble type receiver, Chris Mathews' days in the NFL are definitely numbered, if not already over. But the story of what he was able to accomplish deserves to live on and not be forgotten. All right, man, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget, subscribe, like the video, share the video. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know who else y'all want to see. Thank y'all once again for rocking with your boy and checking out the vids, man. I appreciate it. We getting a ton of love, especially on that last video we dropped on David Seals. If you haven't seen that one, make sure you go and check it out. Also, we got tons and tons of videos on the channel. A lot of the ones that get requested I've actually done already. So just kind of peek around the channel, man, and maybe one that you haven't seen that you're interested in. Other than that, I'm gonna holler at y'all next time. My name is FlemLo Raps. Wow.